Hey, how's it going, everyone? Dylan here from Panda. Thank you for joining us, and special thanks to Rootfire and to Reed Foster for putting this broadcast together, and for all the cool things they've been sharing with all of us. So much thanks to them. And yeah, we just so we wanted to get together tonight and talk a little bit about our brand new release, Cool It Dub, which we did in collaboration with producer musician Victor Rice. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure to do. And he's someone we became familiar with through Easy Star, through his work with Easy Star, and then discovering all the records that he's put out throughout the years. So again, yeah, been a real pleasure, and we're lucky he's been cool enough to give us a little time and make some time tonight to join us. So we just wanted to catch up with him and see what he's been up to. And so why don't we go ahead and welcome Victor to the broadcast. Yes.
Dylan.
How you doing, brother? Welcome.
Doing well. Thanks for having me on this thing, man. That was very cool.
Brother, appreciate it. Thank you for making the time, man. How you making out, man? How you been making out over these last many months through everything?
Well, one aspect of my life hasn't changed at all because I used to work alone, and I'm renting this space for the studio, and I live a bike ride away.
Okay, nice.
So, I've been socially distancing since before it was cool. I mean,
right on.
You know, and that aspect hasn't, but I have definitely felt, I usually go to Europe once a year, the States once a year.
Yeah.
And one thing nice, especially about being in Europe, is that I'm more creative. I wind up writing more songs on the spot when I'm out of my domestic situation,
Wonderful, man. So it's been a creative time for you.
Well, actually, it's been the opposite because I haven't been traveling. So everyone's on lockdown. And my last 2 tours canceled and stuff. So I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Same here, brother. Yeah, we've been off for 6-7 months, man.
For me, I feel like it's been a lot of people. I congratulate the people who've been like finding a creative, energy during these times. Because for me, it's been all about going back to old projects and a lot of work, a lot of singles coming in, remixes, as you know.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, right.
Not too many records being made anymore, but lots of one-offs. Lots of
one-offs.
Yeah,
for sure, man. Yeah, it's been interesting to see just this kind of virtual content develop over the last 6 months. Also, that's been something kind of cool. People streaming, and so you're just kind of seeing it evolve in real time. So. Kind of cool, man. Well, hey, man, I wanted to just say that I've been playing your record a lot, the brand new record, and really dig it, man. Just a lot of sweet feels, man, and beautifully done, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Beautifully done. When did that come out?
That one came out this year.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in May, and I was supposed to be debuting with the band that made it with me in Europe.
Okay.
Obviously that all went to the side, and so it was an anti-release, but even so, because I think because it's part 2 of a trilogy.
Okay. Right. I did hear that. Sure.
It actually got more attention, or maybe it's just because everyone's attention's online now, but it seemed to have gotten more attention than the first one, which is Smoke. And maybe that's because now there's a plan in sight, you know what I mean? And so that's been really cool. I just wish, I could be out there writing the next record while on tour and getting feedback and seeing what beats are working on the, you know what I'm talking about. Like we need that. We need to know what tunes work on
the floor, the live setting and things.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, it's important to kind of
work better on the record, because people are seated, or driving, or doing housework.
Allows you to fine tune the material too.
Yeah.
So with the material on Drink, there, like, I was just kind of wanted to get a sense of like what goes into writing those kind of rhythms, because it was a real unique blend of styles with kind of the rock steady, the ska, and then I was hearing like some of the samba influence, just some real beautiful feels. I was just kind of wondering what your process is, and do you write on bass as a bassist or piano, or just a little bit of sense of that?
I have like some kind of it. I wouldn't call it perfect pitch, but it almost amounts to the same. I would call it something like a photographic memory.
Okay, wow.
For notes and some sounds and things.
Yeah, man.
So I just write it down. Like
Okay.
I could be in an airplane and I just, I always have manuscript paper with me, and I always have a pencil.
Nice.
And I write it down. I got
Yeah.
stuff here, got it in my house, got it in my knapsack. It's everywhere. And I just write down notes so I'm able to do it in my head.
Okay, so you're doing it in your head. You're not doing it on an instrument.
No, I'm working it out on paper like an accountant.
Wow, that's an interesting approach, man. So different than kind of the things that I'm used to doing. Kind of just sitting with a acoustic or an electric and just kind of trying to find a rhythm and things. But do you so you write the bass lines in your head as well?
Sure. Sometimes I write them down. Sometimes I just say, ska,
Yeah.
And what I get down is the melody and the key and the form of the tune. Something about, as a bass player, something I do when I'm recording with the drummer, we don't use a click, but I play notes that guide the people playing the chords.
Okay.
We record the rhythms with guitar, keys, drums, bass, all at once.
Right on.
And these guys in Belgium are fast, but it's like the first time they're seeing these charts, right? So
Sure.
I tend to play more notes and play ahead of the beat and use more like walking style to telegraph to the guys what the next chord change is when it comes. I do a lot of setups on the bass so they hear and they know, oh, okay, it's been 8 bars, we're going.
Okay.
And then when I come back to the studio to mix, I record another bass line which has like minimal information, like a couple of notes.
Okay.
Something that wouldn't help them record, but I record one way to get the performances, and then I go back as like a composer. I'm like, oh, let's raise half of
redo it.
And, yeah.
And you redo it. Now are you saying that you simplify it?
Yeah.
You simplify it a bit. So when you guys are recording, so that record, Drink, was that mostly done live, all of you guys in one room?
Rhythm tracks all done at Nico Leonard is the drummer. Okay. And he's a producer as well, does a lot of dub. He's known as his moniker there is Pyrotechnist. He's Belgian.
Okay, cool.
He built a beautiful recording room in his basement and mix room. But I already have a mix room that I love. So what I need is a recording room. And he's got tape machine, ribbon mics, and everything I need, beautiful treatment, acoustic treatment, really did it right.
Yeah.
And he's a musician that understands me. We both went through conservatory. We're both nerds. We both write the horn parts in their keys and dot the I's, cross the T's. So he we approach music the same way. We're both kind of like dictators. We just show up with our sheet music and be like, this is what you're doing today.
Understand.
Here's your money. Here's your cheap music. Let's get to work.
So you get charts to all the horn players. So all those horn lines, they're just getting the charts and following those.
Yeah.
Right on.
I've learned a lot along the way, like who to track first. Like I like to track Buford on the trombone because his phrasing is so wild.
Oh, nice. It was Buford on there. Buford Sullivan.
He's the trombonist on the record.
Right on, yeah.
My old buddy since the Scofflaws, right? I mean,
yes,
30 years.
Yeah, you guys go way back, right? Nice, man, nice. Oh man, well, I love on the one tune there, I think the time to go. The Time to Go track, a real kind of ska kind of dub thing that it's not something that I typically hear, that kind of thing. So that was really nice, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That tune, I wanted it to, I'm glad you mentioned that tune because nobody does. And,
okay.
It's a positive tune that I imagine we would learn to play at the end of our show.
Yeah.
You know, his closing tune. And there are lyrics. It's time to go, time to go, it's time to go, you know, like 8 times. And then you'll be fine, we'll be fine. That's it. And I get the guys who are playing the horns to sing their notes, you know, with lyrics. And but it just never happened. But I mean, it's like it's actually a breakup tune from
really?
From 2018, you know. And
Gotcha. Yeah.
So the guys at Easy Star, who play a big part in what's going on, they're the ones who really champion the whole idea of smoke, drink, and the next one, which we refer to as the Green Album. And they participate a lot. You know, Eric, Lem, Michael. You know, these guys are give me a lot of great feedback and stuff. And they're like, the dub one, time to go.
Yeah.
No, they're like the ska one, time to go. Can you dub it? And I was like, yeah, that was their idea. That was
their idea. Okay.
Yeah. So
that was a great idea, man.
Yeah, that was those guys.
And I know you mentioned that. I know my experience with them is that they were always really super supportive and, you know, coming with great ideas and very involved, man. So very interesting to hear you say that. So like, as far as like drum and bass, man, any, just kind of going back a little bit, any favorite drum and bass, dub drum and bass, players that are kind of favorites of yours, man?
Now or historically?
Historically, like any bass and drum sections that you kind of dig?
I have to go with Roots Radix. I have to, for me anyway, they're like, you know, fully and style. And it's not only because they play so with that consciousness that it's all going to be filled with reverbs and dubs and echoes and stuff. They know the spaces that they don't, you know, they're not trying to fill up the space because they know it will be filled up. Right. So there's the simplicity, but it's not only that, it's a scientist recording of them that is so fantastic and perfect, you know, like
it really is, man.
You know, I mean, for me, I think the scientist of, you know, this age, because he's gone a whole other way. He's like anti-analog.
That's what I've seen interviews with him where he's very dismissive of analog and all about the digital platform.
Yeah, he insists that if you know, the technology we have today was available in Jamaica, everything would have sounded better.
What do you think about that, man? Do you think, I mean, coming from him, it's you know, it's pretty credible. You know, what are your thoughts on that? Versus digital.
There are reasons I like to record to tape that don't have to do with sound. One is workflow. When people know that you only have, you know, I did Drink. I brought one reel of 30-minute tape, and they always give you a couple extra minutes, right? 33 minutes or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Of tape, and I said, I need to record 10 3-minute rhythms. Here we go. And they know I can't keep a take 2, you know, it's like we have to commit.
You have to commit.
And so there's that, which we don't get with, you know, digital recording, because the options, we can always go back. We can keep everything, you know, we don't have to erase anything to do another take. And then it just becomes more and more work later on when you're trying to bring this thing to mix, you know, like too many, you're like postponing the decisions.
Understand. Okay. With the analog process.
With the digital process, you can postpone the decisions.
Sure. Understand.
With the analog process, you can't, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I love this one record, the first record by the Agrolites. You know those guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Badass, those guys, man. And I know it was Brian Dixon that did the recording and producing and stuff. And I was like, man, what tape did you use? He's like, no, we use Pro Tools. I was like, how did you get such a clear, simple, like, you know, feeling that I get from tape. And he's like, oh, I limited the band to 8 tracks. And they had to make decisions whether, like, if they didn't like their solo, they had to know that, if you want to play another solo, that's fine, but got to erase this one,
Right,
like that kind of like, decision making at the moment.
At the moment. But you're right, those records sound really rootsy and really warm.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I guess that's what Scientist says. He says he can get the same sounds that he got on all the classic stuff in the late 70s. And he's really feels strongly about that, which is interesting to hear that, man, in all those interviews.
Yeah, he's also very anti-compression.
Oh, really?
So obviously that's where we differ, because I am very pro. This is all just compressors. That's all it is.
Nice. Oh, really? Nice. And I'm not much of a technician at all. I can barely do what I do, but it's just interesting to hear those interviews with Scientist about that and how dismissive he is of analog and things.
I think there's something more musical and efficient about tape, because as far as compression goes, the tape is the best compressor I've ever used. It's the fastest and most gentle at the same time. You record drums to tape and you go over the line and it comes back like already packaged.
Gotcha.
It's like a beautiful packaged compressed, there's no nasty transients that you get from poor conversion or some digital trickery or
Right.
So I prefer recording the tape, because not only because I like the sound, but because it reduces the amount of time it takes me to mix it.
Okay.
Less
just easier to mix. It's easier to mix for you. Interesting. So yeah, you were mentioning Flaba and style there, and I mean those bass lines are so. It always strikes me how simple those bass lines are, and the space that Flaba was able to, and the amount of bass lines that he has, amount of catchy bass lines. When I go to dub, I always find them to be like my favorite rhythms also. Just real clean, melodic. So yeah, man, that's cool.
Their space, they're consistent, they're well recorded. You know what I like is the drums. You know who records Style Scott these days? I think it sounds fantastic. I think it might be digital, but he's using some analog gear as well. Is Prince Fatty.
Prince Fatty, right?
He's like one of my he's like my favorite recordist of the genre of I had to do a remix. I was asked to do a remix with for a tune that had Style Scott on drums. I was like, hell's yes. Of course.
Yes.
And but the recording of the drums, I don't know if it was the microphone or the actual kit, but there was something really wrong about everything. The snare just, it sounded like either the mic was off or the snare was never addressed as an instrument.
Yeah.
Like tuned,
something was off. Something wasn't happening.
The kick was a mess. So I was like, shit, I want to replace the kick and the snare like I do with a majority of the tunes I'm remixing. I usually either replace or add my one kick that I use and my one snare that I use, like on all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting to note, I didn't have to do that with Giant Panda.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
the sounds were good.
Drum sounds were awesome. No, I didn't have to mess with anything. It was great.
Nice. That's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. By the way, man, thank you for sending. We just found out yesterday you sent like 5 different videos of the different versions.
Yeah.
Super cool, man. What I was gonna say was that it was tough to kind of figure out which of all the versions. There was another. It was down between like 2 or 3 different ones, and so that was But yeah, man, I suppose that's a good thing. But yeah, man, wonderful job, man, on that. It sounds awesome. And we were stoked on it, man.
Me too. It was easy to get together. It's like you know, the process of doing a remix for me, I have to first get it to a mix, right? Because the only difference between a mix and a dub is my physically messing with the faders on the desk, physically messing with the mix. So I always have to start, you know, I spend as much time, you know, getting to a remix as I would getting to a mix, you know, mix proper.
As much time, right?
And so after doing this, so I usually print a mix before I start playing around, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
And then the first dub, I always include all the lyrics, all the vocals, and possibly all the horns, if that's the case, just in case, like my arrangement between the drum and bass and the rhythm, you know, the guitars and keyboards might just there every once in a while. That mix becomes the principal mix for the record, you know. If I'm doing a whole record for somebody, I'm always going to do dubs by the end of the day because I've already trained all day listening to the tune, got it to a mix, print the stems, everything's nice and packaged up nice. Now let's play around. It only costs 3 minutes to remix it right now. Everything's in place, right? I mean,
yeah.
You spend 10 hours, you're not going to spend 3 minutes and do a remix.
Of course.
So that happens, right? And then every once in a while, the artist is like, oh, this arrangement you did, you know, that's why I always do a pass with the vocals in place. Sometimes it becomes the official mix.
That becomes the official mix. No, I noticed that. And then you go, the second mix will be, and the second mix, everything's on the fly. Victor, it's not nothing is composed or.
No, but I mean, it's not, you know, sometimes I have an idea for an opening, and if I screw it up, I'll go back.
Gotcha.
Well, once I've gotten past the opening, it's almost like the classical separation of a tune where it's like you got your opening, development, and then closing.
Mm-hmm.
And you try and fit it into a Fibonacci proportion. But so if I get past the opening, if I'm convinced by the opening, I keep going. Yeah.
And it's all on the fly. That's really cool. Yeah, that one had a nice feel to it. Just all your dropouts and then the cool. What sold me on it was the cool little flurries, the sax flurries, and the little phrases that you chose to kind of to delay and things, and then the kind of uniform of the lyrical phrase that you chose, and kind of how it was just cool how I made it different than the original. Just kind of shaped and framed it a little differently. So, yeah, man.
Right. Like the guys who wrote the that.
Yeah, that was Ryan Thaxter.
That was Ryan.
Really nicely written.
He's man. He's like one of the only. No, actually, the guys at Rootfire. Who's the other guy?
Oh, Devin Morrison.
There's another one.
And Devin writes. Ryan writes. James from Panda writes. All wonderful writers.
I'm thinking of someone else, and I'm dropping his name right now.
You're talking about David Schiffman, of course.
Yes.
David Schiffman, yes. Yeah.
All right, these guys do research. They don't just put up a review. They call up. They're like, they check in. They're like, what do you got to say about this? Blah blah blah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Journalism, you know, like in the old school. It's really cool.
Yeah,
really
David is wonderful, man. Yeah. He really knows the history of reggae as well. Everyone they got there, man, is really talented. So yeah, man. But
something they pointed out about the lyrics, right? Is that how
right.
It wasn't really the intention of the tune.
No, it wasn't. It's more like a club dance, you know, like just like a lively dance tune, you know. Kind of like I had mentioned to Ryan, kind of like, I don't know if you know the Bunny Wailer record, Ballroom Floor or Rock and Groove.
Rock and Groove
with like Cool Runnings and Ballroom Floor and also it's kind of just in that, it was kind of in that vibe, but it sometimes gets interpreted as kind of more of a political type tune, you know.
the way I heard it, I was like, I mean, it wasn't, I can't say like I had a direct like tactic, like, oh, let's just chuck out this lyric and change the mood of the tune. But I don't always listen to lyrics. Actually, I'm distracted by music, and then I always miss the lyrics. But I felt like, and I do feel like, this lyric is important for two reasons. One is like when we think about global warming, you know, obviously when we think about the planet we live on, let's cool it, makes a lot of sense.
Right. Naturally, yeah.
But also, I mean, politically, what's going on in the States, you know, and culture, socially, what's going on, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it's getting very heated, obviously.
Very heated, man. Very heated. Yeah, that's why I really felt like it captured the mood. So yeah, real appropriate in that way. So I think that kind of was what made me go in that direction with that particular version also. So, but yeah, man. Yeah, how are things in Brazil, man? As far as, you know, political climate and so forth.
Between Bolsonaro, the president here, and Trump, I think they're both competing for like,
yeah,
most hated, you know, of the year, you know,
yeah,
most despised, but also most beloved by the wickedest of people on the planet.
Right. Their followers are fervent. Cult of personality stuff.
I think I can't say exactly. I can't speak to the Trump administration, but we can't keep just blaming one person for what an entire administration is being, you know, prepped to do by people who aren't the president, you know. And it's the same thing down here as up there.
Yeah,
you know, as long as, you know, these guys are sort of capturing all the attention, while bills are being passed in Congress, both Congresses, that would just, you know.
That is true. But
you know, when people can't take to the streets because of quarantine and stuff, this is the best time to pass the most heinous of legislation.
That's true. You got to pay attention to that kind of stuff for sure. You gotta be on that. But yeah, we got, you know, in 3 weeks an election, so it'll be an interesting time to see what happens over the next couple of months.
Totally.
But yeah, man. On another thing, just you know, over the last, you know, month or so, obviously we big reggae losses with Toots and Bunny Lee just the other day.
Striker.
Yeah, Striker. So feels like you know, I know it's said often, but it feels kind of like an end of a chapter in the foundation reggae, you know, from those guys for sure.
Man, the number of people checking out this year,
yeah,
is, you know, surprising, obviously, but I mean, it almost seems to fit with some kind of narrative, right? I mean,
it does, yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that their legacies, you know, are going to live on for sure, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Strong legacy, man.
One guy that influenced me tremendously as a bass player is a bass player from Tower of Power from Oakland.
He just passed away too, right?
Francis Rocco Prestia.
Yeah.
This guy, oh my God. Just, you know, I had to learn to stop playing like that because he, like, there's no room for that in reggae, you know?
Right. It's
aggressive staccato, every 16th note accounted for business. You know, I had to let that go. But man,
different mindset for sure. But those guys love Tower of Power, man. The stuff I know of them, I've always loved them. So yeah, they're great. But you're right, like the mindset is a totally different thing. Which kind of brings me to the idea that what always strikes me about Jamaican music is, and also like Cuban music as well, is just how much music has come out of both those relatively small islands in the Caribbean. You know, Puerto Rico too, of course, but just the global impact is pretty impressive. Which
Yeah, compared to Brazil, you know, there's one big distinction I make between what happens in Cuba, in Jamaica, and Puerto Rico, y República Dominica. One big difference is, for some reason, the bass wasn't there in Brazil at the beginning of its tradition of music, you know? And
yeah,
I mean, it started with voice and drums.
In Brazil?
Yeah, I mean, that's where it started. And then came a guitar, or what they call a cavaquinho, which is a small guitar. It almost looks like a ukulele.
Gotcha.
But and then came like the what looks like a huge floor tom, which they call the surdo, which became the bass drum, and you played it like that with a big fluffy mallet, boom, bop, boom, bop, boom, right. And it, like, the bass doesn't play a part in this music, you know. I mean, as soon as a bass player is in the band, they got another name for it. That's not samba, that's pagode. You know, that's like,
really? Okay, all right, I didn't realize that.
So they don't have and then you look at like Cuba, and they have, you know, Cachao dynasty. They got to be called a dynasty. The Cachao family, headed by the most famous of them, who was able to be called simply Cachao. A legacy of bass players. A legacy isn't the word; it's a dynasty. Like, they defined Cuban salsa by their bass lines, and it was like you know, like over 200 bass players in Cuba named from the Cachao family.
Cachao family, really? I wasn't aware of that, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there's the guy that maybe is the most famous of all of them that represented the family, and his name is Cachao.
Bass players, bro.
Unbelievably
bass players.
Like the selection of notes, the space between the notes, and the accuracy. Oh my God, there was an accuracy I didn't learn. I will say that Brazilians also have a sense of accuracy, rhythmic accuracy, which is pretty scary. And when I started playing bass with Brazilians down here, not reggae, like pagode, which is what I could, like, if I entered the band, we weren't playing samba anymore. We were playing pagode, because there's a bass player, and it's complicated.
Yeah.
You know? Because they have the 7-string guitar down here, which is a acoustic guitar with a extra bass string.
Oh, wow.
They're the ones doing the counterpoint, which is very delicate and sophisticated. So there's no room for a bass player, because they got somebody doing counter melodies, you know.
Okay, so they in a lot of the recordings, no bass.
Oh, for the real samba or the real chorinho, choro. There's this type of music called choro, and I think it's basically instrumental, and the lines are the only thing. It's like Baroque, you know. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and when you play choro, the only bass you're gonna get is the guy with the 7-string guitar, acoustic guitar, with an extra bass note, and he's playing all the counterpoints on this thing, you know.
Wow.
And the only percussion will be like tambourine. So just that, and then and it's the compositions, Pichinguinho, Dominguinhos, these guys, super sophisticated shit.
Yeah.
But bass player, no, that's Cuba, that's Jamaica, that's bass players.
That's the islands there. But the only, I don't know, I used to read this magazine that you're probably aware of back in the 90s, Beat.
Yeah.
Beat magazine, Roger Steffen's magazine, which is kind of like, back then, it's kind of where you would kind of, for me, where I would discover a lot of world music and you know, different music from the islands or Africa and continent of Africa and things. But from Brazil, I was always familiar with the Gilberto Gil and Jorge Ben. So that's very don't know a lot of those, but that album, that Africa Brazil album, is amazing, man.
I think that's yeah. If you could only bring one, I would bring that from Brazil, right? Africa Brazil.
Yeah.
That's a gorgeous record, and
gorgeous record.
And George Ben, he was really active in the '60s with samba, with drums, like traditional drums, bass player, electric guitar. So they call it samba rock.
Samba rock. Very funk stylings.
Yeah, but it had this it was particular to a dance called samba rock.
Okay.
That's why they call it samba rock. Same thing with ska, same thing with rocksteady. Like there's a dance that you do that if you can dance the ska to a song, it's a ska song.
Right.
If you can't dance that
Gotcha.
If it doesn't have that tempo and swing, then it's for me. Yeah, everyone should have a definition, right? Of like what they think is ska, what they think is dub. Anyway, at the exact same time George Ben is doing this kind of beat in Brazil, we've got the rocksteady movement in Jamaica. And the tones are the same, the recording quality is the same, there's something very sonically similar that just blew my mind. I was like, oh man, and then checking the rocksteady tempos and the samba rock tempos, they each have their dance.
Yeah.
So I've been trying for the last maybe 10 years or so. I've been on this mission called Samba Rocksteady.
Okay.
And if somebody listens to the tune, if a Brazilian listens to the tune, it sounds like samba rock. And if a Jamaican listens to the tune, they think it's rocksteady.
I understand. So is that kind of what inspired, like the most recent record, inspired some of those rhythms? Yeah, because I can definitely hear that in those for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that one big connection is the guitar, because the cavaquinho and samba rock goes, which is like straight up skinhead reggae, dirty reggae style, like what they're. So there's that link that there is some rocksteady that works that way with that kind of, what we used to call skinhead reggae in New York.
Skinhead reggae.
Skinhead reggae was when it was when the guitar was doing
upstroke type thing.
Not just
not right.
But doubling it,
Yeah.
And that's like the basis of the Agrolites right there, that's like.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that's rocksteady in a way, because there's some like cool Leslie Kahn productions that have like that, like
sure.
Early Desmond Decker, early Toots.
Yeah, early Toots.
I was like, it's just a little slower than the samba rock, but
a little slower, right?
But they do the same thing in samba rock and in samba.
Interesting, man.
So I try and use that as my link. The only thing is the tempos are different and the swing's different. So you can't dance the samba rock to a rock steady. You can't dance a rock steady to a samba rock. And every like experiment I have either falls on the Jamaican side or it falls on the Brazilian side.
But it works. You can coexist the rhythms. You can make it work.
Yeah. I feel like, it is. I feel like I'll never succeed in the objective, but everything I get along the way, every attempt is sounding wicked.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible to dance both dances to a beat. They're so different. It's not just the tempo, which is, maybe 6 BPM difference or whatever, but the swing is different.
Different.
Yeah.
Man, well, you seem to be making it work, man. Distinct style.
Yeah, the experiments are just, you know, they're working, right? I mean, I trust the guys at Easy Star. It's crazy, but I mean, these, you know, because I don't know many. I say it's crazy because I can't remember the last time I was like, oh yeah, you know, it's the only label I've ever given like I want their creative input.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
listening to what like they're, you know, they're like actively invested in the sounds of these records, you know? So that's, you know, I've never had that kind of relationship before.
Well, I think there's something to be said for just getting an outside perspective. I think there's probably a lot to be said for that. That's important. Sometimes we get caught in kind of just in our own trip, you know. So it's nice to get that outside perspective on that. But yeah, man. So what's coming up for you? What's coming up in the future for you?
Lots of remixes. Doing work for this guy, another New Yorker. Actually, no, he's living in New Jersey, but he's got a crazy background. He's a Russian dude, moved to the States. Alex T. He got a band called Kiwi. He's doing a lot of tunes, sending a lot of tunes this way. There's a guy from Brooklyn named John Kwan who's been sending tunes every once in a while. There hasn't, like, I can't remember the last time I mixed an entire record for somebody.
A lot of people are putting singles out, man.
Right.
It feels like, yeah, it's definitely shifting to that.
So there's a lot of that going on. I was playing bass on a few projects yesterday, one for the Dynamos in California, one for the New Normal, which is a collective. Not sure where they're based out of, but I know half of the people in the crew, so sending bass to them. Working with H&J a lot.
Nice, man. Yeah, he did a wonderful mix for Stop Fighting. You knew that, right?
Right on.
Yeah. Really cool.
He's been great. We both got our start at Version City, which was the Stubborn Records thing in the East Village, you know?
Yes. So I was here. Tell me a little bit about that. I don't know if I'm real familiar with that story, with kind of some of your background in that way.
This was around 95. So I guess I had been already producing records for 5 years, but in the role where you hire an engineer, you hire a studio, you oversee liaison between the musicians and the engineer, that kind of role, right?
Yeah.
But never hands on the desk, you know.
Okay.
But then in around 95, Django, Stubborn Records, opened up his rehearsal spot with like the minimal of recording equipment, but he had 8-track tape machine, 16-track desk, some effects, a couple of ways to listen to the mix, all in this like little rat hole on East 3rd Street next to the Hells Angels headquarters. Safest place.
Excellent.
Safest block in New York City.
Yeah.
and me and Jay had keys and we had this agreement that whatever music we produced in Version City, the name of the studio, was half property of Stubborn Records. And we're like, yeah, that's great. You know, finally I entered a space where the clock wasn't running anymore, like it was when I was producing for Moon Records and stuff. And we could experiment, and we didn't have to pay for, you know, the time we were there.
Yeah.
And me and Jay cut our teeth there together, like
learning engineering at that point. That's kind of where you
started
that experience.
Yeah.
Around 95, Victor? 95?
Yeah, 95 until 2000.
Till 2000.
There. And that's where I started dubbing. And that's where I started learning how to get, you know, like recording too loud to the tape, something like I could never get the engineers to do, or something that was like, oh, let me do it. You know, blast the tape with drums. Yeah, I like that, you know? And I knew we didn't have like enough equipment. And I'd been to enough studios to know that there was never going to be a mix that would come out of this place that would be like, wow, the sophistication. Oh my God, the you know, the perfection. Look,
Yeah.
no, never, ever. But we were like, we can make an interesting mix.
Yeah.
You know, and with, you know, using dub techniques and stuff like that, I could, you know, work with that. And I could work with improvising mixes and doing stuff that I would never have the courage to do in front of a real engineer, you know?
Yeah.
So I was a musician approaching the mixing desk like an instrument. And
Good
and
creative space.
yeah, we were both doing it. You know, Django was doing it too. Vic
Yeah.
Ruggiero was doing it. It was we all had keys and we were all like fucking shit up and you know, making all our mistakes in private. It was great.
There you go. That's it's helpful to have that kind of place to do that, man.
Yeah.
Said for that. No, that's cool. So when did you move to Brazil, man?
I moved in 2002.
2002. Okay.
Yeah. It was after 9/11 that I decided, since I already wanted to move here, but it was only like a fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Then after 9/11, I was like, yeah, you know, I had this, you know, negative experience. I was working and the producer was like, keep working, and getting pissed off that nobody from operations was answering the phone. Nanny wasn't answering the phone, and I'm trying to work and ignore the situation. And then the producer says, this whole thing is just so inconvenient. And I'm like, that's not the word, you know, to be saying right now. And I was like, you know, I think I'm done. You know, I started taking Portuguese lessons soon after that.
Oh.
Paid off my debts and my bills, paid off my student loan. Sort of, you know, so I didn't like just run away. I didn't just like not show up the next day at work and be like, I'm out of here. So I did it calmly and you know, and so in February 2002, flew down here.
Wow.
Stayed with friends, stayed on the beach for a while, learned Portuguese by speaking.
Yeah.
Secured an apartment here, this, you know, and then started renting a place, and it was all easy. It was all, you know, I say it was easy for me, but, you know, my friends are the ones who had to vet me and get me a lease. It was.
Yeah, that can't. Yeah, and I'm sure that.
I got great friends. I got great friends, you know. So people set me up, and they helped me take care of myself. And then for like the first 5 years, I was back and forth to New York to work, and then come back here and sort myself out. And 6 months here, 6 months there. But I think I really started staying here, and the studio was completed around 2010.
Okay.
So now it's been 10 years that I'm like, you know.
Sounds like it's going well, man.
I can't complain. I know a lot of people who can. You know, I mean, you know, I've been ready to work online for 10 years now.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that it took like the C word, the other C word, to make everyone have to embrace the internet and realize, yeah, it does work. You know, it you know,
it can work, man. Yeah, it's been cool to see this grow, man, and into this. Unfortunately, still no kind of end in sight over here for as far as getting back to playing, you know, live, which what we all at this point what we all want to be doing. You know, it was cool to have like a couple, you know, a few months of a break, but kind of ready to get back to the live thing, man. What you drinking, bro?
We've got a decent Cabernet from Chile.
Very nice.
2019.
Love it.
For the money, it's the right choice.
Yeah. Nice, man. So are you in Sao Paulo? Is that right?
Sao Paulo, me and 20 million people.
20, big city, man.
I was blown away by it. First time I saw it in '98, because I was getting tired of New York City, because I'd been there since like Dinkins was mayor, and then Giuliani came in, and I felt the difference, right? And by the time 9/11 came around, you know, and I was like, I'm just I was already over it, you know. I was already over New York. And then I come down to Sao Paulo. I was like, my God, right to the central of Sao Paulo, where I'm based, the old city, just feels like New York did in the 80s. And it never gets cold. There's palm trees. It's like a whole other, that's, you know, and the people are, that's what made me like, I've never heard a foreign language, you know, that made me want to speak it. You know, the first time I ever heard a foreign language that made me go, oh, I gotta learn that tune. You know, I gotta learn that. You know, it was Portuguese. You know, it's just incredible.
It seems like it would be a really difficult language to learn. I grew up in Puerto Rico, so I speak Spanish, but it still seems very like it would be a tough language to learn. So that's impressive, man.
I think one thing that Espanol and Castellano and Castellano and Portuguese have in common is that compared to English, right? They're both very complex languages. But there are rules, and those rules apply, right? So you got English, which is a very simple language, which has, rules, right? You know, like there are more exceptions than there are examples, you know? I mean, it's like every rule is that we've learned in English is broken, or, you know, it doesn't even categorize as a language because there's too much French and German and Dutch in it, in English, to qualify as an actual language. Whereas, you know, I studied Latin in high school, so I was able to speak minimal Espanol, not a problem. And Portuguese, wow, Latin really helps, you know, and very specific language, you know. So it's like you can learn a word. If you know the rules, you can read a word in Portuguese and you know how to say it. That's not English.
Yeah.
You know, English, you know, through, though, thought, tough. Like you write all these words down.
And you can pronounce them.
Yeah, like we know, but like there's no, like they all look the same, and they're all the TH is different, the GH is different, the O is different, the OO, O, through, you know, through, though, tough, thought, trough. You know, like we know what, you know, because we speak English, right? I mean, but you know, you put those words in front of a Latino's head, and they're like, "The fuck? There's no, it's chaos. It's anarchy."
Yeah, there's no rules. Much. Yeah, right. No, I get it.
No, I shouldn't speak bad about anarchy. It's chaos. Anarchy and chaos are not the same thing.
There's two different things. Yeah, there is a distinction.
My bad.
Very much.
Anarchy is organized.
Anarchy is somewhat organized, right? But hey, man, you know, the boys in the band texted me the other day, and they were wondering, did you work on do you know the group Punto de Equilibrio?
Sure.
I figured you did. Did you, James had texted me wondering if you had worked on, did a dub with those guys?
Yes. If not a whole record. I can't remember because it's been a while. And since then, I've worked with their guitarist who, he may have come back, I'm not sure, but he's been doing his own solo work named Andrés Sampaio. Andrés Sampaio. And he's more pushed towards Afrobeat.
Okay.
His stuff than the reggae stuff. But yes, I've worked with them, and it was, I hope it was good for them, because it was, for me, it was like it helped a lot in my recognition down here. They're a very respected band, and
yeah,
you know, they got this, you know, sound like culture almost, you know, in the way they play, you know.
Very, very root sound, man.
Mad roots.
Very unparalleled roots for sure. Well, we had discovered them, I think, like 15 years ago through a friend. A friend brought a record, might have been like 2005 or 2006, and we're just blown away by their sound, you know. So we would. What was the record that you worked with them on?
I'm trying to remember the name of the tune. I know of one tune, which I did remix. Putz, I'm not remembering the name of the tune right now. I swear there's like, that was hundreds of mixes ago.
Okay. That was years ago.
That was, yeah, hundreds of mixes ago. That was maybe 1,000 mixes ago.
Oh, wow. So those guys do really well in Brazil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These guys, there's a band called Brasa.
What's Natty Roots? Is it Natty Roots?
Natty Roots.
Those guys, they got some really cool stuff too.
Oh yeah, I think they have more history than either of the other guys. Natty Roots.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they've got even more history. There's a lot of great, what they call reggae nacional. Mm-hmm. It's like domestic reggae sung in Portuguese, right? And
sure.
I do feel like there's the aesthetic gets limited a little bit to the Bob Marley mold.
Understand.
But here in Sao Paulo, I get exposed to ideas that may not be popular, but they exist, you know, like, so there's a whole crew down here doing raga in Portuguese.
Oh, wow. And
I think is very much more interesting. There are bands down here much more in Sao Paulo because it's so many people and so informed. It's the biggest thing in Latin America, you know?
Right.
The only thing bigger is Mexico City. It's the only thing bigger than Sao Paulo. And so South America is Sao Paulo's, you know, and so everyone's here. Largest Japanese community in the largest Italian community in the world. Everyone else is down here too. I mean, everyone's represented, you know?
Yeah.
So you see these microcultures happening, things that you might see in Berlin, for example, you know, and there's this crew that does raga in Portuguese, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. There are people who know that Jamaican music is not just Bob Marley. You know, it's like there's all this other stuff. Got this DJ called Jurassic. And I swear, I feel like I'm in New York City going to the Raven Bar in the East Village and listening to just rocksteady from the 60s. You know, Jamaican rocksteady from the 60s. And there's a crew here that supports that. There's these micro scenes that are, you know, you can find it all here down here. It's great.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah, it's a big cultural superpower.
Yes.
Very much like Jamaica.
Yes.
Cuba and things. But wow, man. Well, that's really cool. What is so you just you're going to be working on some singles now, man? And any live music coming up for you, man?
I don't have any live gigs. Oh, at the end of the month, I forget the name of the festival, but yes, I'm gonna be live streaming a dub mix from here, from the studio. And I need to put that. I need to get that together. Actually, I've been preparing. I'm doing I give courses. I give classes in music production.
Nice, man.
Online. In Portuguese, so you can imagine. I really gotta.
Bro.
Shit together, you know, and so I'm preparing for that again for the end of the month.
Very cool, man. Oh, that's great. We're getting ready to start a record in the next 2 weeks. Interestingly enough, we haven't played together in about 6 months, so we're kind of starting the beginning of a new record, doing a little week or so of rehearsal, and then
awesome.
And then starting. So it's going to be a busy few weeks, but yeah, looking forward to it, man.
Last one was in like 2016.
2016. Yeah, it's been a while. We released the singles. We released Stop Fighting, then we released Good Love, which was mixed by Pachiman. Do you know Pachiman? Are you familiar with him at all? He's a mixer out of Los Angeles, doing some really wonderful dub stuff, some really roots radics, some very just super roots. So he's on Facebook. Definitely check him out.
I will check him.
Some great stuff. So yeah, so we just been putting out the singles because we were kind of like, you know, maybe we should be releasing singles, you know, kind of going that route. And
had a guy named Danny Kalb.
Danny Kalb, yeah. Danny Kalb was wonderful. He mixed the last record.
And I'm trying to remember. See, now it's my turn to interview you. All right. So I know that name. How do I know that name?
Well,
What he must have done something else that I've.
I mean, he's mixed Ben Harper.
Right.
Ben Harper, I think he mixed Beck. And he's been doing a lot of work with a lot of the American reggae bands, putting out some great stuff. Wonderful guy. He mixed and produced our last record, Make It Better.
Does he have anything to do with that studio that the Spin Doctors built?
Where is that? Like in
New
Kingston? Or I don't think so, man. He works out. He was in Los Angeles for a while, as far as I know, and then now I think lives in Cincinnati. I believe that. Yeah. But yeah, he's a great guy, and yeah, so he worked on our last record, and he's been doing a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, Pachi, man, and he's another one, great engineer out of Los Angeles. Keyboard player, he plays all the instruments, plays the drums, and he has like a video going. So yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. I'm gonna check him out.
Yeah. So yeah, brother. So thank you for.
I know we got to close, but I had to say I'm a big fan of Tom Robbins, but yeah. I didn't recognize. It's been so long since I read that book where you guys got the name from, Giant Panda.
Giant Panda. Oh, another roadside attraction, right?
Yeah, and it's been forever that I haven't read his stuff. I was reading it in my 20s, and I'm old, so.
Yeah.
But now I want to read Jitterbug Perfume again. That book is a masterpiece.
Yeah, have not read that one. I remember we formed in like 2004, and the first time Chris, our drummer, was the one who kind of coined the name, and it was really I was like, yo, that's the craziest name I've ever heard, man. But somehow it's worked, man, and we still yeah, it works. It's hard to remember, easy to forget, I suppose.
No. I mean, you for me, it was like Giant Panda. What? It's like no way to forget the flyers and stuff. Also, like I remember, like when the ska flows, my first ska band I was in was called New Bohemians.
The New Bohemians.
And then Edie Brickell's lawyer shows up one day, Paul Simon's girlfriend, and shows up. Not the lawyer. Edie Brickell's Paul Simon's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Their lawyer shows up to band leader of the New Bohemians and says, "We want to buy the name."
Wow.
And the word is he sold it cheap. We don't know, but he told us whether it's fact or not. The band leader said, "Yeah, I sold it for $500."
Wow.
And I was like, $500? And he goes, "If somebody played you, I'm not aware of too many things, blah, 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 blah."
It's a great record, man.
But he hated it so much, he didn't think they had a chance. And so he was like, "Yeah, I'll give you $500. Yeah. And give me $500, I'll give you the name."
Not the best negotiator.
But then again, whatever.
I'll tell you what. I loved both of her records at that time. I think that might have been like 80, maybe 88, 89 or. Good.
Oh yeah. No. I mean, production and everything. I mean, what burned all of us is when the record came out. We're like, how did you not know like this was going to be like a multi-dollar thing?
Wow. How long did you guys have the name for, man?
He had the name for a good 5 years or something, with proof, flyers and stuff. Back then you had proof on paper, right? You had like.
Right. Sure.
So then we needed a new name. And the one I voted for, which reminds me of Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad, was the Bohemian Liberation Army.
That's pretty good. That would have worked.
And no one thought that people would have, right, like the attention to get to the end of the name or whatever. How do you remember this shit? Yeah. And the guy selling it, John Soto, he's the one who created the idea. And now he's much better paid for his ideas, But I mean, back then he was like, dude, it's got to be Bohemian Liberation Army. You'll be the only band with your own flag. You can have a flag, I was like, he sold me on flag.
I think that would have worked, man. I think that would have worked. You guys never went with it.
No, they went for the scofflaws.
For the ska. There's a lot to be said for that two word. That's the standard.
Yeah.
The uniform approach.
The double entendre.
Yeah.
You know, here's something I wanted to talk about, because I could think of two, because we're supposed to be talking dub, right? So much like ska, it's a 3-letter word that has come to represent more than it was supposed to. Like, people call things ska that I would never call ska, because you can't dance the ska to it.
Yeah.
The tempo's all wrong, you know. And
you can't dance the ska to it. It's not ska.
By my definition.
Yeah.
I think we should all have a definition. That one's mine. You know, that there was a time in the history of the universe where the dance and the music wasn't two things. You know, it was one thing, you know. And I would say the same thing about the waltz. I would say the same thing about like the salsa. I mean, if you can't dance the salsa to it, is it salsa? I mean, you know, it's like, how do you separate those things? You know, it's like you don't. You know,
it is all about the dancing. You know.
Yeah.
In the end.
You know, the purpose of the music, the function is to make you do that particular step.
Right.
Pronto, right? But anyway, like dub doesn't have that. You know, dub is like another 3-letter word which gets used to mean a whole bunch of things. And I think, you know, for me, my personal definition of what is dub, because it's, you know, you can only work to your own. Yeah, I think artists should have their own definitions of these things. You know, what is beauty? What is love?
Sure.
What's dub? And for me, it's a performance by the engineer. So it has to be live. It has to be an improvisation in real time by the engineer on the desk.
Right.
Physical performance, you know. Yeah. And that's why I take video, just to like affirm that what I'm doing falls under my definition. Because now dub gets used for a lot of things, you know.
It does, yeah. It's got a broad definition, or it's used very broadly. But what's interesting to me is how, in my mind, dub is not something that's, as far as like when you're playing the rhythm, it's not an improvisational thing. When Flaba and when those bands go in, they know exactly what they're playing, like really well. Whereas in contrast to like when you're on the fly dubbing, that's an improvisational thing.
Totally.
Because I feel like I'm always impressed at how efficient those bands were with the little time that presumably they would have had in those studios, and how you really had to get it quick, you know.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah.
You had to get it right, get it quick. I mean, that was back in an age, you know, in any place in the world in the 60s, anywhere in the world, you couldn't get in a studio unless you had your performance so nailed that you could nail it in the first of 1 or 2 takes, maybe.
Right.
And then get out, you know, like next guy's online. And there was none of this preparing in the studio business until the Beatles it up for everybody.
You knew what you were playing before you went in.
Yeah, you weren't allowed in unless you could.
You weren't allowed. It's always cool to see those videos where the trio vocal group is like in the yard coming to like audition for the producer, which is it's always like so much competition, and like all those guys are really good.
Yeah.
Competitive scene, I would imagine, you know, just musically, so much talent.
I don't think I've ever experienced that kind of environment where there was a line of like top talent waiting to get a few minutes in the studio.
Yeah.
I have never been near that, you know. Yeah. But it is pretty wild. I mean, some of the situations like in the 80s, that there were more studios in general, you know, nobody had a computer at home to make. So even like low-level demo stuff and this kind of stuff, much easier to you know, during that time to get experience of, you know, you only got a few minutes here, you know, try and get it right.
Yeah.
You know, it's something I think is lacking now. That kind of pressure, we don't have that anymore. You know, we're all able to do it, capture the performance at home and stuff. And, and you know, I think benefits and things. There are benefits, but I don't. I think discipline will never go out of fashion, right? I mean,
true.
I hope. Maybe it will. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot to be said for that. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you can. It's a lot easier to make records now than it was. You know, I suppose we're trying to go in for this next record and really try and catch everything as live as we can, which has kind of been our process usually. Is we try and get, if we can get everything, the basic tracks in the live take, in the performance, nice, you know. So we're trying to kind of get back to that a little bit, you know, try to get back to the roots a little bit. So, sorry, Rita's. Yeah, man. Well, bro, man, just want to thank you so much for the dub and for you know, connecting with us. And
pure pleasure. Whoever recorded you guys, give them my congratulations, because I didn't have to, like, you know, I had to fill in the gaps in the arrangement because you guys had a fine arrangement in place, and so I had to like loop in stuff so I could do the arrangement on the desk, right? But the sounds, the sound quality, you know, and you guys playing, you know, it's like you guys crush it, and I was so glad to be in on this.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, man. We gotta do it again sometime, man. It was nice to finally connect, man.
Totally.
Do this, brother, man. So, yo, man, thank you, Victor. Appreciate you, man, taking the time, my friend.
And and everyone on crew.
Yeah, man, will do, sir. Will do. And let us know when you're back in town. And hey, one last question is, when is the new record coming out, man? The new release.
It's still being written, so I don't know. Okay. But I would imagine 22. Okay. If I were to guess, yeah.
You know, it feels like it might. It's unpredictable as to what's happening in the music business. It feels kind of weird, like if a lot of bands are going to lose momentum because of this. So, be interesting to see, man. Very lots of uncertainty, but
I still have. I expect once everything is over, definitively, I expect a surge in society.
Yeah, that's an optimistic outlook. I like it, man.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think people will appreciate more being able to tip a pint.
True.
You know, next to you know, just out in public, man. I think public, you know, I think we're all waiting for that.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And hats off to people who can, like you guys, you're able to create and compose during these times. You know, hats off to those who are like, you know, the Sarah Coopers of the internet that are just, you know, the Randy Rainbows, these people that are like just flourishing during these times, you know. Yeah. They're like, oh, I got this. I could do this from my house. Let's go. Yeah.
That's impressive, man. That's impressive to see people doing that, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, but people, yeah, just trying to stay positive through all this, man. And I'm sure we're gonna get through, and things will be good soon, man. So good luck with everything, man. And we'll talk real soon, my friend.
Yes, please.
Victor.
Good talking to you, Dylan. Thanks again.
My pleasure, brother. Much love to you.